guys. So, it's been a while since I've actually uploaded anything to YouTube. Not a lot's really been happening there, you know, so I've just been very busy as well, so I thought I'd calm it down a bit. You know, I had a few things I had to work on, like I've just finished college now, and trying to get myself sorted out job-wise and things like that, and hopefully things will start falling into place now. Anyway, I thought I'd start branching out a little bit, and since discovering that I actually have the horror channel, yes, I have the horror channel, I thought, why not? I'm going to start reviewing some films that they're showing. Fright Night has been and gone, and during that time they actually showed quite a few really good films that I hadn't heard of before. So as well as the gaming, I thought I might start doing a movie review as well, and see how that goes from there. And I am really noticing now just how, has my head always been this small in comparison to the rest of my body? This is weird. Anyway, so for the first film that I've decided to review, Horror Channel actually showed the 2015 film Confinement, otherwise known as The Abandoned. I actually had to take some notes while I was watching. It looked really good from the trailer. The thing that attracted me to watching the film in the first place, because I wasn't entirely sure, it took me a few looks at the trailer to think to myself, do you know what, yeah, I'm actually going to give this a go, I'm going to see what this is all about. Sorry, I don't mean to be flashing my boobs everywhere, sorry, really try and hide them a bit more. Anyway, the thing that attracted me most to the movie, from looking at the trailer, it showed a young woman who started a new night as a security guard, observing cameras in an old abandoned building, and that immediately spoke to me as a Five Nights at Freddy's fan. Not that I've ever played, I think I played the first game, I played the first Five Nights at Freddy's, I played it once, got killed by Foxy, and have been unable to go back to it since. It freaks me the hell out, but I do love watching YouTubers like Markiplier, especially the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. I love watching him play those games. I'm really looking forward to Sister Location coming out. But anyway, back to Confined. So yeah, that was what appealed to me initially when I saw it being advertised, and I thought, oh, this might really be something worth watching. So yeah, you start off with a character called Julia actually, who also goes by the name of Streak. Who knows? You know, I didn't write it. Yeah, if that's what you want to call yourself, fine. So she starts off at a new job as a security guard for an abandoned apartment complex, which was built during the American boom years, and there's also another character in there who is the security guard who has been there since the beginning. And he tells her what to do and what she might expect, etc. Now it starts off, you know, it's sinister right from the start. There is a very definite sense of dread right from the get-go. And this is due to the fact that, you know, it's already outside a raining environment, it's gloomy. Within the first 5-10 minutes of the film, you're already aware that she has a child, no father necessarily to this child in the picture, quite an oppressive mother who's, you know, doing what a lot of mothers do, in that, you know, trying to encourage and, you know, forcefully get their children to do more for their own good, but at the same time coming across as quite a bitch. I'm sure a lot of us have been there, you know, kind of can relate to that in many ways. But, so she goes to this apartment complex, which I said before has been abandoned, And it was abandoned because obviously the crash. There was, well, the crash occurred, no one could afford to live there anymore. And this is where I want to get into it because
the place that they chose for the location of these apartment complex, oh my word, I've never actually seen, it's quite hard for me to think now where I've seen such beautiful setting. You know, as she's walking around being given her induction to the job and the location, just beautiful, beautiful location, you know, very stylishly decorated, you know. It was the type of place that you think to yourself, my God, I wish I could live there. Why is this abandoned? You know, what a waste. You know, this is a lovely place. Why are you just letting it go into disrepair? But obviously with it being abandoned, there's, you know, the risk of, like, you know, maintenance going down, and also just people breaking in and vandalizing. And of course the building is still actually owned by a company, so that's why the security guards are there, to try and make sure it stays in as pristine a condition as can be expected, considering the fact that it's also abandoned. So it kind of has this lovely element where it flips between being third person and first person perspective because of the surveillance cameras, and also the fact that the security guards also carry head cams. So there's a few occasions where you're seeing kind of through their eyes because they've got the head cam on, and you're getting that relayed through the security cameras, which I thought was quite nice. I'm quite a big fan of, like, you know, Blair Witch inspired found footage films. I know a lot of people say that, you know, the found footage movie kind of, you know, began and died, you know, simultaneously with Blair Witch, but I love it. I think it's a lovely way of doing movie making, because instead of there being, like, you know, 3 people, I can't even count. It's terrible. Instead of being, like, you know, 3 people in a film, you know, you've got 2 people and 1 person. This is weird. This is weird. I'm not wearing any rings, so my hands look absolutely fucking huge. Anyway, yeah, instead of there being 3 people, you end up seeing 2 people, and the third person is ambiguous. Essentially, you are the third character in the film, and that's what I like about it, is the fact that, you know, you do see it through someone's eyes. I like that element to it a lot. There is the issue with the building, going back to the film here, there is the issue with the building in that the electricity cuts out occasionally, which again will add, that was my Skype coming on, sorry about that. Again, that adds more to the tension, the fact that the electricity will just randomly cut off and just leave the place in total darkness, and the only way to switch the power back on is to go down to the breaker room and switch the breaker. And also the fact that, you know, the building is designed to conserve power, so there are certain times where sections of the building will just cut out electricity entirely as a means of conserving power. So the element of sinister and dread is right there off the bat. You know, as soon as you've been given this induction, this is what you're going to do, be aware that the lights will go off, you know, you've got this head cam, go down to this room that's in the deepest, darkest basement to flip the breaker switch. Anyway, what I found watching this film is the fact that, you know, I was constantly looking at the monitors whenever you were in, like, the security guard office. I was constantly looking at the monitors just thinking, oh Christ, did I see something? Oh, what was that over there? You know, even though I'm sure nothing was happening, you know, just the fact that, you know, the cameras are all fuzzy and you're kind of sitting there going, what the fuck was that? Even though you might not necessarily have seen anything. There's a part to it because obviously Julia, we established, has some mental health issues. She suffers with hallucinations, both auditory and visual. So there's an element to it quite early on in that, you know, is she really seeing these things, or
is her mind just conjuring stuff because she's very stressed, you know, trying to get this right so that social services won't take her daughter away from her, you know, quite sad. I mean, there is a very distinctive part of the film that, you know, really stuck out for me, which was her... I can't remember what the other guy's name is who's in the film. I really can't remember his name, but I'll pop it up on screen. Anyway, he's talking to her and saying about the fact that he's got children. He shows her a photo, and we see the photo. And then she says, "Oh, I also have a daughter called Clara," and she too gets out a photo and shows it to him. Now we don't see what's on the photo, and I thought, oh, you know, that's a bit odd. You know, maybe it's all in her mind, you know, maybe the whole thing is all in her mind, you know. Also the element of the other security guard having been there, you know, he's described as having been there since day one, since the beginning of time, which I thought, well, this is a bit actually bizarre, you know. Is he supposed to be like another ghost or something like that? One thing I want to get out of this film is the fact that, you know, there are actually, the jump scares are minimal. It does have jump scares, I'll say that now, but the jump scares are minimal and actually quite well done. You know, some people, going back to Five Nights at Freddy's, you know, that obviously means I'm quite fond of jump scares, you know, and I know not everyone is. But I think this is where this film actually does it quite well, in that there are jump scares, but they're very minimal, and they're quite well done, but they're not in your face jump scares. It's quite subtle. I don't really know how to explain it without, like, giving away, like, locations where the jump scares actually are. It'd be best to go and see it yourself and assess, you know, what I've said from this. But the jump scares are very, very well done, and it kind of... the other thing I noticed about it is that it goes from threat to threat to threat. You start the story off and you think, okay, so this is the threat. This is what we have to deal with. And then suddenly something else will come into the plot and you're like, oh no, that's the threat. That's what I need to be worried about. And then that will disappear as well. And then there'll be something else entirely that suddenly becomes the threat. And it's... I like that. I like the way it keeps you guessing. It doesn't rely on the fact that, you know, you can... I'm one of these people that... sorry, I ramble so fucking much, don't I? I really need to sort my fringe out. I'm one of these people that as soon as I kind of get the hint that there might be a twist to a story, I'm there in the back of my mind thinking, oh, you know, what's going to happen here? You know, oh, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? I'm not necessarily saying that this film does have a twist, but yeah, I'm one of these people that tries to jump ahead and think, oh, maybe this is what's going on, you know. So it keeps you guessing at that point because it keeps changing the threat and who the threat is or what the threat is, which I thought was very, very good. So, what else do we have to talk about? There is a part in the film where, I'm going to say, Julia actually jumps to a conclusion. She jumps to a conclusion that even I thought, well, hold on a second, you know, that's a bit of a leap, isn't it? You know, to suddenly go from this to that, you know, surely that's a bit of a leap of judgment. Surely you would have gone through a few other alternatives before reaching at this definite conclusion. But the end of the film kind of it resolves that issue to some extent, you know, and there are times where, oh, well, that doesn't make sense, you know, well, why would that happen, etc. But again, the ending of the film actually does take that into consideration, and you're kind of left with this feeling of, oh, okay, you know, it's not perfect, but it's something. It's some kind of explanation that I can live with. So, the other thing that I think is really great about this film, and I cannot stress this enough, especially horror films, I am there for the horror. At the end of the day, that is what I am there for. There are very few horror films where I am the slightest bit interested in some kind of developing romance. And thank Christ, this film does not have a developing romance. So thank goodness for that. Yeah, I think romance in a horror film, you know, aside from like your classic like Halloweens and Friday the 13th and things like that, where you've got a bunch of horny teenagers and whatever, you know, that's part of the concept, is that, you know, these are, you know, part of the ways that you will die is explained by Scream. You know, I do still love that that speech in Scream. You know, I think that still stands the test of time when you look back on some of those films. So, but I'm not a big fan of romance in horror films. I think there's a time and a place, and I'm sorry, but if you're being, you know, haunted by ghosts, or you're being chased by a fucking monster, or zombies, or anything like that, now is neither the time nor the place to be canoodling with any fucker. Okay? You know, that's just my personal opinion. There are more pressing matters to worry about than whether you're gonna get your rocks off. So, thank Christ, this film did not actually have a romance section to it. So, this basically sums up the whole thing. You know, some people might say that this film is actually quite boring. I would say that this film is actually more slow-paced. It builds on the dread as it goes. You think you see stuff, you know. Very, very common element in horror films is the use of children. But I think, again, this film has done it quite well. It has a lot going for it, you know. It's not necessarily like, you know, Ring or Ringu, whichever you're more of a fan of. Personally, I'm more a fan of the Japanese version, but it's not like that in any respect. So, at about an hour 10, an hour 15 into the film, I thought to myself, you know, maybe, you know, this could use some more explanation. And, you know after a while when you're reaching the end of a film and you start to think, do you know what, I'm looking for an explanation here to this, and, you know, I don't think we're actually going to get it. I don't think there's going to be time to portray what the message was to this film. And I don't know, I was starting to think to myself, oh, okay, this started off quite strong, but now it's become a bit, you know, take it or leave it kind of thing. But in my personal opinion, I think the other thing that kind of did that for me as well was the one that I don't want to say bad, because it might just have been budgeting issues, but it wasn't a great use of special effects. Like, quite clear green screen, CGI stuff going on. You know, it took you out of the moment, you know. That probably would have passed, like, in the early 2000s, like up to 2006, probably, that probably would have passed as quite a good special effect, but it didn't in this retrospect, which I think is the only thing that kind of really brought me out of what was going on. So that was unfortunate, but the thing that really pulled it back was the ending. The ending just pulls it straight back out of the water and gives it a chance to breathe again. I personally didn't see that ending coming. I didn't realise that was going to be the ending. I'd had all these different theories planned out in my head as to what was going on, and personally that was not, the one that they presented was not one that I had anticipated was going to happen. So, I think the ending, you know, like I said, when it gets to kind of like 3/4 of the way in and you're kind of thinking, oh, well, I was expecting a bit more from the start of this, and now I feel like it kind of let me down. Again, the ending really is there to save it. That's my personal opinion on the matter anyway. You know, who knows what other people thought. Like I said, I think other people might think that this film is a big pile of crap and it's really boring. But again, I can't see it that way, because I think that it's suspenseful and keeps driving up the dread, and is very good with its jump scares in order to relieve the dread that had built up until that particular jump scare. So, in essence, aside from a few dodgy special effects near the end, this is beautifully filmed. It's been beautifully orchestrated from beginning to end. There's some lovely characters who you really feel with. You know, even the one who's a bit of an arse, and you're kind of like, Jesus Christ, you know, buck up, you're an arsehole. You know, stop being such a fucking prick. Jesus. You know, they're all very rounded characters. There's no real need for development of the characters because they are so rounded almost immediately from the start. It's beautifully filmed, it's beautifully edited, the dialogue is very good, other than a few times where, you know, you think to yourself, oh wow, you've maybe jumped to a conclusion here, but again, the ending resolves that. It takes full advantage of the style of the film, having it as a horror that flips between being a first person and a third person perspective, which is lovely. And the location, you know, I cannot stress enough how beautiful the building is that they chose to film this thing in. You know, it was absolutely astounding how lovely the building is, and I wish I could live there. As long as the lights are working, you know, I don't really mind. You know, it looks amazing. You know, there was nothing more to be said. I mean, by the end of it, you know, I found it, especially at the end, it's one of those, the only way I can think to describe it, it's very, I don't want to say it's completely Del Toro, because I love Guillermo del Toro. I think his stuff is absolutely amazing. He is actually my favourite director at this current time. You know, things like Pan's Labyrinth, The Orphanage, you know, Jesus Christ, even Hellboy, you know. Let's not forget that he did that, but, you know, Pan's Labyrinth is definitely up there. Was it Don't Be Afraid of the Dark? You know, I think Crimson Peak was a bit of a dull point, but Mama as well is another good one that he's had his hand in. But the ending is kind of reminiscent of a Del Toro style, in that the ending is it's a bittersweet ending. It's not exactly a good ending, but you can. It's in essence a bad ending. You know, it's not the ending that you want for the characters. It's not a happy ending, but at the same time, you can see the good in that ending. You know, there is an element of this had to happen. This horrible thing had to happen so that this good could come out of it. So that's what I've got to say, is that it was reminiscent of a Del Toro told story, and I personally would recommend it. I thought it was very well done. I thought the pace moved significantly enough that, in my opinion, it didn't become boring. It just became more and more suspenseful as it went on. So I'd recommend it. I'd say I'd probably give this like a 4 out of 5. Simply for, you know, I hate to do it, but I hate to take it down for special effects, but I'm going to. I'm also going to take it down for the fact that I think the end of it might have been a bit rushed to try and get the climactic scenes filmed. But other than that, you know, for a film I hadn't heard of until like a month ago, I thought this was really, really good, and I'm so glad I watched it, because I realised it was on like about 3 months ago and I missed it, and then they repeated it during the Fright Night season, and I was like, oh thank God, you know, I can watch it now, I can do this. So anyway, that is my review on Confinement, otherwise known as The Abandoned. I personally prefer Confinement. That's just my personal opinion, because why am I calling it Confinement? It's called Confined. It's called Confined, otherwise known as The Abandoned. Now, to me, the title Confined actually speaks more to it as a movie, yeah, as the story of the film in whole. You know, I think if you take that element with The Abandoned, it doesn't quite ring true to the very end I think that part of it is specifically about the location, whereas if you say confined, it gives, you know, the sense of the characters as well, the fact that they are confined within themselves. And again, this will all be explained if you actually go and watch the film, because I'm not going to give spoilers. I'm one of these people, I don't give spoilers, because I did it once. I was the most hated person. I didn't intentionally mean to give a spoiler, because I didn't realise that person actually wanted to see the film. But anyway, yeah, that's it. So go and see Confined. You might see it under the name The Abandoned. You know, it's released in 2015. I will put up some information about it so that you can locate it if you so wish. And that's all I've got to say. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you want to get in touch with me, you know, please do comment in the section below. You know, you can ask me questions, you know, like, you know, what my favourite film is, what my favourite genre is, things like that. So, yeah, just ask away, ask me anything. I'll be more than happy to answer. And, yeah, I intend to keep going with this because I like the idea that this is quite simple to do. So, yeah. I'm going to be continuing this. I'm not entirely sure what the next film is going to be. It's possibly going to be a film, either Curtain or Nothing Left to Fear. So, see how that goes. And, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. So, yeah, stay dark, everyone. So, you take care. Bye!